Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the internet, the John Campea Show. Coming to you from right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you guys joining me here. Bunch of friends standing around a virtual water cooler talking about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news and all that sorts of good stuff. We got a lot of stuff to get to today. Bunch of things just dropped this morning. We, of course, got our main topics we're going to get to in just a little bit. But we're going to start things off with this. There has been a lot of discussion about the whole Chronicles of Narnia stuff. Now, of course, they had the big film franchise, all that kind of stuff, yada, yada, yada. Then last year, in 2017, there was the announcement that they were going to go ahead, I believe they're going to make, Sony was going to make an adaptation of Silver Chair. However, we never heard anything about it after that. And now it appears that we know why. It's being reported that Netflix has signed a deal with the C.S. Lewis estate for all the rights to do movies and TV of the Chronicles of Narnia franchise. Now, this marks the first time ever that all the rights to all the various books that they've had, and I believe there have been 7 books, but the rights to all the books have been purchased by one thing. Netflix now, or at least licensed by one body, Netflix now has plans to do a bunch of standalone Narnia movies for their channel. And also what is being suggested is maybe even a TV series or two based on this world that they've created. Now, like I said, this casts, although we haven't heard anything official, this casts into doubt that report that we got from last year that Sony was going to be developing a new movie. At least the fact that maybe it was true at one point, they gave up on it, they gave the rights back, and now they're back at Netflix. Who knows how that all kind of sorted out, but what we do know we've got now is that Netflix is going to move forward doing Narnia movies. I kind of feel like this is the best place for any Narnia property to go, honestly. Like, I really enjoyed the first Chronicles of Narnia movie, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I got a big kick out of it. I had a really good time with it. But I also found that the subsequent films dropped a lot in quality. And not surprisingly, pardon me, they also dropped a lot in their box office results. If we take a look at them, the first Chronicles of Narnia movie, The Lion, the Witch, and Wardrobe, domestically made $291 million. The next one domestically, which was Prince Caspian, dropped all the way down to $141 million, and then the third in the franchise domestically, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, continued to drop down to $104 million. Now, worldwide, we saw a big drop from the first film to the second film, not so much from the second to the third. The first film, Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, worldwide, took in $745 million, which is a giant hit by any definition. Prince Caspian then came in at 419, and then Voyage of the Dawn Treader worldwide did 415. Basically, it was a long downward and a significant downward trend. Ending in films like, look, if they went from $1 billion to $700 million, hey, it's still making $700 million. That's big, huge, blockbuster by any definition. But it dropped down to like domestically 140, then down to domestically 100, and then worldwide from 7-something down to 400, 415, things like that. That's why a number of people, including myself, started to feel like, number one, the quality of the movies had dropped off significantly. Don't think there's really a lot of incentive to see a new one. But secondly, the business of the movies seemed to have dropped off, and the reputation of the franchise seemed to be hurt. So there was all that kind of stuff. But still, there was a lot of potential in Narnia's storytelling. I could not see a viable way that a studio would actually step up to spend hundreds of millions to make these movies for the big screen. However, a place like Netflix, that's probably a place that could find a home. More reasonably budgeted, it could probably find a home there, and this is probably the best thing for it. Am I excited about it? To be honest, no, not really. I love those books, but just seeing the direction that the films are, not really excited about it, but it is the best place for them right now, and we'll see how these things turn out. All right, let's move on to this next topic here off the top. It was funny that the other day here on the John Campea Show, somebody asked a question about, like, with First Man coming out with Ryan Gosling, do we think they would ever start to consider making films about the space shuttle disasters, the Discovery, the Columbia? Could we ever see them doing those types of movies, and should they do those types of movies? This might have just came up last week. To which I said kind of at the time, I don't know, but I think they could. I think you could do that, and I kind of think you should do that. I think the stories of these people should be told. I think there's inspiration in these stories to be told, even though they're disasters. Well, and then imagine our surprise when we wake up to find out that they are indeed moving forward with a movie simply called The Challenger. And the first bit of news we got out of that is Michelle Williams herself is going to be playing the role of Krista McAuliffe. I've never known if I pronounced Christina's last name right. She was the teacher. She was a school teacher who won this contest to be a teacher that NASA would fly into space. And one of the most heartbreaking, everything about the Challenger disaster was heartbreaking. But one of the most heartbreaking, I remember images of the whole disaster was later on when they'd show the students of her school watching the space shuttle launch and the excitement and then the just stunned faces when the things blew up. But anyway, you got Michelle Williams starring in this. And really, it's a great choice. You are going to the top of the top of the top of the barrel when you're trying to pick out great talent, when you're getting a Michelle Williams. Lest we forget, Michelle Williams she's very quietly. When we think of the best actresses in the business today, they're very big names. They're very bold names. We think of them very much right out of whether it's a Cate Blanchett or whether it's a Meryl Streep or whether it's a whoever. Michelle Williams is one of these actresses who is just very quietly gone about amassing one of the absolute best resumes in acting. Some of her notable films include all of these top four she got nominated for Oscars for: Manchester by the Sea, My Week with Marilyn, Blue Valentine that she did with Ryan Gosling, Brokeback Mountain, which is an iconic film for a lot of people, got a lot of Oscar nominations. But also she was just in The Greatest Showman, which she was incredible. She was great in Shutter Island. We'll find out if she's any good in Venom. She was in that one with Kristen Dunst and Ryan Reynolds, actually, Dick. But I'm a Cheerleader is a film that a lot of you guys remember. And of course, a lot of people remember her very fondly from Dawson's Creek. When you get a story like this that will touch home with a lot of people, especially those of us who are alive, no matter how young we were, if we were alive when that whole thing happened, I think it's going to resonate with a lot of us. And then you add an actress of the caliber of a Michelle Williams to it. That's a pretty special mix. Now, what type of approach they're going to take to this movie, I still don't know anything about it. I just thought it was, pretty, ironic that just the other day this topic came up. Should they make a movie about Challenger? Should they do that? Yeah, they should. These are stories that should be told. And then here we are. It gets announced. So I'm very interested in this. I cannot wait to see it. All right. Next off the top, the first trailer for the Christian Bale-led film Vice has just hit the web this morning. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about it, Vice is about Vice President Dick Cheney, who was, of course, George W. Bush's vice president, who really changed the game when it comes to the vice presidential role. For almost all time, the vice presidential role has really almost been a symbolic role, a ceremonial role, whose only real importance was seeing that that's the person to step in to be president if anything should happen to the president, right? Dick Cheney's vice presidency really changed that, at least for him. And he kind of became what a lot of people consider to be the most powerful and influential vice president maybe in the history of the country. Anyway, first trailer drops, and the first thing that jumps out to me is the practical makeup work on Christian Bale is outstanding. Now, number one, we've seen pictures of Christian Bale over the past 6 months or so. He's packed on a lot of weight, and we knew it was for this role, and it plays perfectly because not only did he get his body to look more like Dick Cheney's, then the practical makeup and the practical effects are fantastic on him. He just looks great. Now, it doesn't matter if he looks like Dick Cheney or not. That's not going to affect how good or bad the movie is. But since we already know that Christian Bale is an elite A-level actor, that we're not worried about that. We know that part will be fine. But on top of that, you got performances you got Steve Carell playing Donald Rumsfeld. That's amazing. You got Sam Rockwell doing a great George W. Bush. You got Amy Adams in there, which is insanely good. You got Jesse Plemons in there as well. You got Tyler Perry going in there as well. It's a great cast. And I'm telling you what, this trailer, now granted, I am a sucker for true story movies. I'm a sucker for political drama movies. So you put those two things together, and I think this is fascinating. And I don't think it matters what side of the political spectrum you fall on. I don't care if you're somebody who liked Dick Cheney. It doesn't matter to me if you didn't like Dick Cheney. It doesn't matter. This story is fascinating. Regardless of whatever side you fall on, this is a fascinating story. And to have the caliber of the talent that you have attached to something like this, and you see that talent really manifesting in a trailer like this, like, you can't help but kind of be overwhelmed by it. I'm watching this trailer, and like, you know how I often say that the job of a trailer is to move your excitement needle. Like, whether it was 0 or whether it was already at 90, the job of a trailer is to take your excitement needle and push it up a few notches, right? By the end of this trailer, I just felt sick to my stomach that I couldn't just go and watch this movie right now. Like, after watching this trailer, I just want to see the movie right now. And that's what this trailer did. It did a fantastic job on that. So, again, Christian Bale looks amazing. Steve Carell looks like he's going to be fantastic in it. Sam Rockwell looks like he's going to be fantastic in it. Cannot wait to see this thing. I know a lot of you guys are going to be excited for it too. All right, one last thing here to do off the top before we get into our main topics of the day is, with all the shuffling going on with all the various Fox properties, one of the films, because it has been pushed so far back, it's not coming out till August, but one of the films that has kind of been falling off our radar a lot is the New Mutants. But lest we forget that movie is coming out, it is coming. And it seems right now, when you listen to the producer of the film, Simon Kinberg, who is, by the way, directing the upcoming X-Men Dark Phoenix, Simon Kinberg said they're still not really sure if this movie is going to be R-rated or PG-13 rated. I mean, the film is pretty much done, but they're still not sure if it's going to end up being PG or PG-13 or R-rated. Here's what he had to say, and I'll tell you right before we even get to his quote here. I love what he had to say. Here's what Simon Kinberg had to say about New Mutants. He said, it's the kind of movie that could go R, or it could be a hard PG-13. As I was saying before, in terms of subgenres or the genre, it is obviously teased as a horror film, and most horror films these days are R-rated. But it stars a very young cast, so we'll see. It really is what the movie wants to be. The studio is open to either rating. Traditionally, superhero movies are PG-13, other than Logan and Deadpool movies, and generally horror films are R-rated. So we'll see where this one falls. It's a very scary, edgy movie. What the line I love from Simon Kinberg in here is this. It's right in the middle there. It really is what the movie wants to be. Now, remember, movie studios take their movies and submit them to the MPAA, and the MPAA then gives it a rating. The studio doesn't give their own movie a rating. The MPAA gives their movie a rating. What it sounds like to me, what Fox is doing with New Mutants, is exactly how you should handle this. Don't worry whether or not you want this movie to be PG-13. And don't worry if you want this movie to be rated R. Put that out of your head. Like, I understand a lot of studios do worry about that, and sometimes it's justified. But for a movie like this, what it sounds like to me is that they're going to go, we're not going to worry about PG-13 or R. We're not worried about it. We're just going to make our movie. We're not going to put in extra F-bombs just to get the R, and we're not going to cut a bunch of stuff out just to get the PG-13. We're going to make our movie the way we're making the movie, and then we're going to give it to the MPAA, and they're going to give it whatever rating they want, and we don't care. If the MPAA sees our movie, and we've made the movie that we want, and they give it a PG-13, fine, no problem. If they look at our movie and decide, nah, this thing's rated R, fine, we're comfortable with that. It just seems to me, taking from Kinberg's comments, that seems to be the approach that Fox is taking. And I'll be honest with you, I wish more studios would take that approach. Don't make something R just because that's the trendy thing to do. Don't throw in extra F-bombs and extra boob shots or whatever just so you can get the R rating so we can be cool. Oh, look, guys, we've got the R rating. We're cool. Don't do that. Don't slash a bunch of stuff out of your movie just to get a PG-13, unless like you really want your movie to be PG-13. There are understandable circumstances for that. But I love this notion of just saying, you know what, screw it. I don't care whether our movie gets a PG-13 or an R. All we care about is we're going to make our movie the way we want to make it. Then we're going to take that movie we made, we're going to give it to the ratings board, and the board's going to give it whatever rating they want to give it. If it ends up being PG-13, fine. If it ends up being rated R, fine. And I love that approach. Again, I don't know if New Mutants is going to be a good movie or a bad movie, if it's going to be one of the most horrible things since Catwoman, if it's going to be one of the best things since The Dark Knight. I have no idea. I'm just saying, from a studio's perspective and from a filmmaking point of view, I like this approach. And I wish more films would do that. So whether or not that becomes a trend, who knows? We'll have to wait and see. All right, with that stuff out of the way now, guys, let's get to our main topics today. Where do we get our main topics from? Well, we get them from you. You guys then send them in to me. How do you send in a question or a topic? It's easy. You just email me anytime at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Put the word topic in the subject line. And as always, guys, keep those emails to 90 words or less. All right, with that out of the way, let's get to the first email today. And the first email today comes to us from Mike Quivito, who writes, so I read that Sony is already at work on Morbius as their next Spider-Verse project. I also read that Venom will have some mid-credit endings as well as post-credit one. Of these endings, is there a chance Morbius could be teased? Seeing how Morbius is not as well known as mainstream-wise as Venom is, I think a tease in the Venom movie could be a good starting point for anticipation for Morbius, especially if Venom does deliver. All right. Thanks a lot for the question, man. And so for those of you who don't know, there is a Morbius movie coming. And we've known that for a while. Morbius is indeed on the way. And we've got Jared Leto, who plays the Joker. He's going to be playing the lead character. He's going to be playing Morbius in the film, which, I mean, myself, personally, I'm very excited about. Now, there's also some more stuff that we actually know about the Morbius movie. For example, we know the following. This comes us from MovieWeb. Morbius the Living Vampire is actually expected to begin filming in the next couple of weeks. So we will get some more information about the project really soon, after the opening of Venom. As for the other characters in the movie, it has been heavily rumored that Morbius' fiancée from the comics, Martine Bancroft, will be a part of the story, and that Emil Nikos, who is Morbius' best friend, will be the villain of the film. So, they've been giving us some hints at a bunch of stuff. Apparently, this movie could start shooting as early as next month. This Morbius movie is not just theoretical. It could start shooting as early as next month. They're expecting within the next 5 to 6 weeks, this movie will be in production. Now, if Venom opens to $25 million of an opening weekend, they're going to scrap these Morbius plans real quick. I'm just telling you that right now. Now, I'm not saying Venom is going to open to $25 million. I'm not saying that. All I'm telling you is that if Morbius opens, or if Venom opens to $25 million, it doesn't matter what they had planned for Morbius. They're going to kill this project. I'm just telling you that right now. Mark my words. Venom opens to 25, 26, $24 million. Morbius is dead in the water. Opens to 55, $60 million. They're moving full steam ahead with Morbius. So the question becomes, could we possibly see Morbius pop up in a post-credit scene? I really don't think so. I don't think so. Which is kind of funny for me to say right now, because there are some places in the world, there are a number of countries in the world where this movie's already opened. And many of you guys could be watching from one of those countries. There may be some of you guys watching the show right now that you have seen this movie, and you might be going, Campea, as a matter of fact, Morbius does appear in the post-credits. I mean, that could totally be happening. I don't think that's what they're doing. As far as, hey, a lot of the audience doesn't know who Morbius is, so this is a good chance to introduce him. I would say it's the exact opposite. The tease in a post-credit should be something that enhances excitement. I don't think throwing in a character that nobody's ever seen and nobody knows anything, even a lot of comic book fans don't know much about, really wouldn't do much to build awareness or build excitement. I just don't see that being the case. Now watch this. He is in the post-credit scene, and I'm going to sound stupid. What's new? But I just don't see, from a filmmaking point of view, I don't see the incentive to put a Morbius post-credit scene. I just don't see the incentive. I really don't. You will do much better to bring awareness to the audience with a trailer. A trailer is the best way to do that. Your first commercials, all that kind of stuff, that's much better way played. I really don't see it. I just don't see that happening. Plus, I don't think Jared Leto was ready to go in and start shooting anything like that. I don't think he's ready or going to be available till late November, so there's that. Although, to be honest, it doesn't take a lot of time to go and shoot a post-credit scene. But I'm going to go out on a limb here right now and say that I do not think they're going to do a post-credit scene involving Morbius. We know there's a post-credit scene. Even people who say they don't like Venom are saying they like the post-credit scene. I'm excited to see whatever the post-credit scene is. I'm going to go see this movie tomorrow night. But we'll have to wait and see. But as far as it being Morbius, I'm going to say I doubt it. But hey, anything is possible. Let's wait and see how this turns out. All right, let's move on to the next email. And the next email today comes to us from our friend Joseph Salsi, who writes, "Hey, John. Fan from Binghamton University in New York." Well, thank you so much, Joseph. With the release of the PG-13 Deadpool 2 now in December, isn't it time for the execs at Warner Brothers to finally come to their senses and move Aquaman out of there? Wouldn't Deadpool 2 be going after the same demographic? Or is release not going to be that huge of a thing? All right. Thanks a lot for the question, man. Appreciate it. And yeah, you've heard it right, folks. There is indeed this new Deadpool movie. And by the way, to be specific, I love this image that Ray put together with Deadpool riding the shark. Anyway, there is this perception out there that this is straight up just Deadpool 2 rated PG-13. I have honestly not seen anything from the studios that really confirms that. All I've seen from the studio is that it's called an untitled Deadpool movie. So I don't think it's just going to be I don't know if it's just going to be a straight Deadpool 2 with offensive stuff cut out of it. I think we're going to get something special. I think this is going to be a different movie experience. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing with this, but that's besides the point right now. So here we have this ridiculous 8-day window coming in December. This 8-day window where there seems to be like no less than 10 like major movies coming out in an 8-day window. And we've been discussing for a while now. Look, I've been saying since April that I think Aquaman should move out of that date. I just think they would enjoy a great more deal of success if they moved off that date. And then whenever I say that, I inevitably get these people going, no, other movies should move. Aquaman shouldn't have to move. It's not about having to move. It's about doing what's good for your movie. And if you can make an extra $50 million by moving off that date to another date, then who cares what other movies should do? Do what's best for you. And my argument forever has been what would be best for Aquaman is to move off that date. Go make more money. Go have bigger success. We need DC movie to have some kind of freaking success. So move Aquaman out of there. Go make more money. Be the smart ones in the room. Alita Battle Angel, it turned out that Alita Battle Angel was the smartest guy in the room. Fox was the smartest guy in the room. And they looked around and it's like, all right, none of you idiots want to move out of this death window. Fine, we'll move. And we're going to go make more money. Bye. And they had the smarts to get out of that date. Now you might say, as I did, well, with Alita Battle Angel moving out, that means there's a little bit more breathing room for Aquaman. Except now you got a freaking Deadpool movie opening there. Now this window of death, this 8-day window of death, looks like this. It's got Mortal Engines, the new Clint Eastwood film that I'm dying to see, The Mule, the Jennifer Lopez film Second Act with my boy Milo Ventimiglia. You got the animated film. By the way, the new trailer looks great on it. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. You got Mary Poppins. You got Aquaman. You got Bumblebee. You got Holmes and Watson, which looks terrible. You've now got this untitled Deadpool movie, and you've got Welcome to Marwen all in there. Look me in the eye and tell me, nah, it wouldn't be a good idea to move Aquaman. Nah, they'll make more money here than they will in another month. BS. Bull. And look, I'm not saying Aquaman can't do reasonably well at December 21st. I'm not saying it's going to flop. I'm not saying it's going to do badly. I'm not suggesting that at all. I think Aquaman can do perfectly fine on the December 21st date. I really do. But I'm also saying that it can do much better than perfectly fine if it had another date. You got too many movies, and it's not just the number of movies, it's the specific movies. You got too many other movies going after your specific demographic, and now Deadpool dropping in there. What the hell? What the hell? You just cannot make a legitimate, rational argument for Aquaman staying in that date except one. There is one rational argument. And it's the argument that I think is going to prevail here. It's too late. But John, Alita Battle Angel moved just now. And it wasn't, yeah, but Alita Battle Angel wasn't as high profile. You know? I think it's too late. I don't think they're going to move. I really don't. Even with Deadpool moving there, I'm telling you what, Marvel could move Captain Marvel to December 21st right now, and I still don't think Aquaman's going to move. I think the folks at Warner Brothers just think it's too late. They've locked in that date. They're there. They're staying there. And they ain't going anywhere. I still believe wholeheartedly they should move this damn thing. But I just wouldn't bet $5 on it. I just think at this point it's become clear they have dug in their heels. They are sticking right there on December 21st. And, you know, fine. I mean, there you go. Look, the one thing, it's not all doom and gloom. The reason there are so many movies opening in this 8-day window is because that's going to be a very rich 8-day window. A hell of a lot of people are going to be going to the movies in that 8-day window. And so there are a bunch of movies that want to get a piece of that pie. I get it. I just don't think the pie is big enough to feed these 10 monster films or 8 monster films, or however many, this many films. I just don't think there's enough to go around for each film to enjoy the success that they could have if they weren't opening in that window. That's just the way I feel. But to answer the question, do I think Deadpool moving there will finally make DC move Aquaman? No, but it bloody well should. It bloody well should, but I really don't think it will. I think they're going to stick right there. And, you know, at this point, there's the common sense part of me that's like, come on, Warner Brothers, move this movie, move Aquaman, put it into a position where it can have bigger success. But the fan part of me is like, nah, screw that. It's almost December. Don't push it any later. I want to see this movie right now. I'm very excited about Aquaman. I have been since that first trailer drop, man. Very excited for it. Cannot wait to see it. So, hey, we'll just have to wait and see how that all kind of turns out. All right. With all that out of the way, guys, we've saved some time now to take some live questions from you dudes. So let's jump over there right now and start seeing what you guys are talking about. First live question comes to us from Danny Ramuni, who writes, huge Scorsese fan, but scared for Irishman. Thoughts? Oh, dudes, I've been scared about Irishman since day one. I've been very nervous about this film, like completely. On paper, it looks great. But listen, there's a reason all the studios turned it down. And that it ended up on Netflix. Now, here's the thing. A friend of mine brought this up to me a couple of months ago, and it's valid. It's a really valid counterpoint. You see, for me, my biggest hesitation about The Irishman has been that, look, all the studios turned it down and it ends up in a dumping ground like Netflix. Okay. Now, Netflix has some wonderful, wonderful stuff. What I mean is, there's probably Netflix wasn't their first choice. That's what I mean. I love Netflix. Long-time Netflix subscriber. But it probably wasn't their first choice to end up on Netflix, right? A friend of mine raised a very, very valid point and said this, John, maybe the reason the studios passed on it wasn't necessarily because the movie didn't look any good. Maybe it looks great, but they just didn't believe it could be financially viable. They just didn't believe, hey, this movie could be great, but we don't think anybody's going to go see it. We don't think this movie's got the potential to be big box office. In case you haven't paid attention, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, like Martin Scorsese, I mean, other than a couple, you know, he did that one with Liam Neeson the other year, and like nobody went to go see it. So maybe this movie is awesome. But it's just that the studios didn't feel anybody would actually go to see it, and thus it would be a money loser for them. If that's the case, that's something for those of us who are fans of Martin Scorsese can hang on to. That maybe the studios didn't just pass on it because it didn't look any good, although that could be the case. But maybe it's a case of, hey, yeah, this looks great, but we just don't think anybody's going to go to see this. We don't think this movie can make, $200 million at the box office, which is what it would take because this is a fairly expensive movie. Maybe that's the case. So there's something for us to hold on to, Danny. History Soup writes, Snyder planned to kill Batman in Justice League sequel. Nuts. Okay, that's been, first of all, I understand why you're saying that because everybody's writing about that. That has been blown so out of proportion, it's crazy. It's all taken from just a couple of words that Zack Snyder wrote on a social media post, and everybody ran with it, and it ignores one very, 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 very important fact. Batman was never going to die in the DCEU. All right? Let's just be clear about that. Batman was never going to die in the DCEU. First of all, I think we're taking Zack Snyder's comments out of context. But second of all, even if Zack Snyder thinks somewhere in the back of his head that he was planning on killing Batman, Warner Brothers never would have let him do it. There is zero chance that this was ever actually really going to be a thing. Zero. Number one, I don't even think Zack Snyder was really going to do it, but even if that's somewhere down in the recesses of his imagination, he thought about killing off Batman, zero chance that Warner Brothers would have let him do it, and Zack Snyder knows that. Zack Snyder would have been smart enough to know he could never have even gone to Warner Brothers with the idea. He would have been laughed out of the room. There's no way Warner Brothers ever would have allowed that. Not a chance. So this whole thing about, did you know we almost had a DC movie where Batman dies? No, we didn't. We never got anywhere close. It never would have gotten past the first suggestion. Number one, Zack Snyder's too smart to ever even bring it up. And if he had brought it up, it would have been shut down immediately. So it never would have happened, and I don't even think Zack Snyder was ever serious about that. George Costanza writes, if it was a regular salad, I wouldn't have said, oh, I remember this, the large salad. Okay, if it was a regular salad, I wouldn't have said anything, but you had to have the big salad. It's not just you had to have the big salad, you had to have the big salad. One of my favorite, you know what, hold on a second, it's funny because I was just looking at this the other day because me and some buddies were talking about poker. Let me see if I can, give me a second. See if I can pull this up here. You might appreciate this, George Costanza. One of my favorite poker playing experiences ever was there's me and Jason Alexander. Me and Jason Alexander were playing poker together in Vegas a couple years ago. I obviously knew who he was, and surprisingly enough, he knew who I was. And we ended up playing some poker together. That was him and I at Planet Hollywood a couple years ago playing poker. So that's just for you, George Costanza. I figured you would probably get a kick out of that picture. So there you go. Let's see. Where are we next? Marv Diesel writes, let's see. Where's Marv Diesel? Better Captain America, better trilogy, Captain America or Avengers? I go Cap. Woo! That's tough. That is tough. You know what? Man, first Avengers so good. Look, there's a lot of people out there who consider Winter Soldier like the best comic book movie of all time. There's a lot of people out there who consider Winter Soldier the best comic book movie of all time. You got some people that consider Civil War the best comic book movie of all time. On the Avengers side, the first Avengers, there's a lot of people, including me, that think Avengers is the best comic book movie of all time. You're not going to find many people that think Age of Ultron is the best comic book movie of all time, but there are a lot of people who think that, that just loved Infinity War. Woo, that's tough. You know what? I've never thought of it in that term before. I'm going to go with the Captain America trilogy. I'm going to go with the Captain America. I still think the first Avengers is the best comic book movie ever made, but if you're weighing the weight of the trilogies, I might have to go Captain. I might take First Avenger, Winter Soldier, and Civil War over Avengers, Age of Ultron, and Infinity War. I think I do. I think I take that one. Let's see. Tom Ellum writes, avid viewer as always, thank you so much, Tom, was looking at becoming a Patreon supporter, but was unsure if it would still be as valuable to you after your move to the big studio, etc. As a matter of fact, Tom, what's funny is yesterday I did a town hall meeting with my Patreon supporters to give them all the information. We talked for about an hour, gave them all the information about the new move and what I mean. One of the realities is I'm actually going to be losing a lot of money for the next while because I'm also becoming an owner of the company. My goal... Well, you know what? I'm not going to talk about it all here. If you become a Patreon supporter, you can see the video, and I explain why actually my Patreon support is actually more important today, more than ever. And hopefully, like within a year, we're going to be at a place where I'm going to get to go back to my Patreon supporters and say, guys, I don't need you to support the channel anymore. I just need you to support the channel with your viewership and your participation, but I don't need you to support us financially anymore. Yay! So here's hoping we can get to that point. But right now, yep, still very much relying on the Patreon supporters. But I go into it in all the detail in the video. Only accessible by Patreon supporters. But if you are one of the Patreon supporters and missed it, make sure you go back in and watch that. But thanks for bringing that up, Tom. I appreciate that. Let's see. Tom Ellum writes, also, are there any actors that their presence in a film takes you out of the movie straight away? Honestly, no. I mean, the only times that I really find that happens for most part, is when it's not an actor. You know what I mean? Like, here's a good example. Kingsman, The Golden Circle. The Elton John stuff took me out. I thought the first cameo was kind of funny, but it still took me out of the movie. And then they just kept going with it and made it utterly ridiculous and really stupid. And that really took me out of the movie. But I can't say there's any actor by just their presence there takes me out of the film. I really can't think of any off the top of my head. Maybe if I thought about it more, harder, or longer, maybe I would come up with a name or two. But honestly, off the top of my head, I can't think of any. Interesting question, though. All right. John Early writes, I want to know your thoughts on the original 3:10 to Yuma and the remake with Christian Bale and Russell Crowe, if you've seen it. Well, I like the original, 1957. Glenn Ford starred in that one, 1957, 1958, somewhere around there. And it's a good film. The 2007 3:10 to Yuma is an example of remakes can be better than the originals. And that's not a knock on the 1956, 1957, 1958 3:10 to Yuma. That's not a knock on that film at all. It's solid. But I love 3:10 to Yuma, the new one. Here's the funny thing. You mentioned Christian Bale and Russell Crowe, two of the greatest actors on the planet. But they both got upstaged by this little actor named Ben Foster. Ben Foster is just probably, like, we talk about really underrated actors today. I'll often bring up Chiwetel Ejiofor, very underrated. But Ben Foster has to rank right up there amongst the most underrated actors. He is a powerhouse actor. And when he's on screen, he owns the screen. I love this dude. And you threw him in a supporting role in a movie with Christian Bale and Russell Crowe, and he upstaged both of them. I thought he outshone both of them in that movie. But anyway, I'm a big fan of the film. And Bale's great in it, and Russell Crowe's great in it. Obviously, Ben Foster's great in it. Big fan of the film. Stubble McShave writes, now that the Wheel of Time TV series is greenlit, how do you think they will manage the adaptation since the series is at least twice as big as Game of Thrones? Well, I mean, remember, what something is in a book is very different from what it ends up being in its translation. Whether something is bigger or smaller really all comes down to the storytellers. So it all depends on what kind of approach they want to take for the screen. And remember, I mean, not everything is going to get a Game of Thrones treatment. And also remember that Game of Thrones' treatment and its budgets have gotten bigger and bigger and bigger over the years as it's proved to be really successful. This show could be a complete flop for all we know. So it's really hard to say. We don't know anything yet about what kind of approach they're going to take. We don't know what kind of philosophy they're going to bring to it. We don't know what their specific story angle on the source material is going to be. So until we see all that kind of stuff, it's really hard to say at this point. I honestly don't think this lends well to the screen. I really don't. I don't think Wheel of Time lends itself well to storytelling in a visual medium. I just don't. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. But if I was a studio exec, I wouldn't have greenlit this because I just don't see this being something that translates well. But there have been other things that people thought wouldn't translate well, and they turned out fantastic. So let's keep that in mind too. All right. Dim Sum 05 writes, bummed about the Venom reception. Can't wait for A Star Is Born. New Spider-Man trailer had homage to Spider-Man 2. Favorite movie of all time. Excited. Well, there's a lot in there. Yes, I am also bummed about Venom's reception. Not surprised, though, since Sony was hiding the reviews. It's got a 27% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. In case you didn't really think they were hiding the reviews, they were. And there was a lot of good stuff in that Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse trailer. It's the one that's made me excited about the movie. You know, I've been a little bit lukewarm about the whole Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse animated film, but I got to tell you, this new trailer is the one that's got me on board for it. Sebastian writes, general audiences will like Venom in my opinion. It's impossible to say that. You haven't seen the movie yet. How can you say the general audiences will like it if you haven't seen the movie yet? And I haven't seen the movie yet. It's impossible to say. So I don't know. I don't know. I've heard from some people already that have seen this movie overseas and did not like it. So we'll have to wait and see. Let's see. Arturo Beltran writes, thoughts on the Child's Play remake First Picture? Haven't seen it because I really basically don't care about it. I think Child's Play is a dead franchise. I really do. So I haven't seen the picture. I didn't even know there was a new picture. I expect it's a picture of the doll. But I could be wrong about that. I have no idea. But I got to admit, I really don't think much about Child's Play or care much about it. I think it's a dead franchise. I really do. King Dom Games 19 writes, Hasbro producer confirms Bumblebee is a reboot. Not true. I have not seen any Hasbro producer come out and verifiably 100% with all clarity say Bumblebee is a reboot. Because it's clearly not. You can't have all the same character looks and designs and voices and blah, blah, and call it a reboot. And I happen to have a little bit of a connection to Hasbro. And I have not heard that. And I mean, it could have, I remember in a shareholder kind of conference, I think the word was thrown out there, but I don't think it was meant in term. You know what I mean? So I really don't, this isn't a reboot. I don't believe this is a reboot at all. Could be wrong, but I don't think it is. Let's see. Abdul Abbas writes, favorite Scorsese / De Niro movie and Scorsese / Leo movie. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I need to sit down and think about that. Can't pull that off the top of my head. Patrick Conway writes, do you think Feige might try directing an episode of Scarlet Witch or Loki? Also, did you see the Kingpin calling out Daredevil teaser? Can't wait. I don't know that we'll see Feige direct. He's never given any indication or any desire that he wants to be a director. Now, look, just because he's the greatest producer in the world right now, maybe, doesn't mean he's a director. So I don't see why he would, and I don't see why he would want to. He's a busy man. He absolutely has no time to go and take on the job of directing an episode of a television series. You know, so I don't think so. I mean, look, it could happen. He's Kevin Feige. If he said he wanted to do it, who's going to tell him no? So, of course, he could do it if he wanted to. I just don't see how he would ever have the time to do it right now. But it would be interesting. Martin Volek writes, on my way to see Venom right now. If everything else sucks, I hope at least Venom himself is badass and would love to see Carnage, fingers crossed. Well, you know, what I'm reading, even from a lot of people who did not like Venom, they're saying they think Venom looks really good. If nothing else, it seems like there is a general consensus that Venom at least looks really good in it. And I know there were a bunch of people who were really worried about that. That were worried that they aren't sure how they felt about his look from the trailers and all this kind of stuff. But apparently even those who don't like the movie are saying that visually he looks really good. Whether or not he's a good character and that he's badass, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But at least people are saying they think he looks good. Anyway, Martin, let us know. Once you see the film, I don't see it for another 24 hours, but let me know once you see it, man. Stubble McShave writes, what I meant with Robin Hood yesterday was that, like Superman, he's an iconic character, and that means you can't change too much of the classic story elements. If you do, you mess with the audience expectations. I don't necessarily agree, Stubble. I don't necessarily agree. I think you can, and if you tell a good story, people will buy into it. Regardless on if you change classical elements or not. And it doesn't matter if you hit their expectations. If you make a good movie, I mean, look, you can make a movie where turns out Robin Hood and the Sheriff of Nottingham are actually brothers. They were both sons of Locksley. But you could do that. You could do that. Totally changes the origin of the story. But if you do it with a dynamite script and a great story and you make it compelling and audiences get on board with it, people will be fine with it. I totally believe that 100%. Because listen, we've seen lots of incarnations of different stories that stay very true to the classic storytelling or the classic mythology of those characters, and the movies turn out to be ass. Right? It's not so much which road you want to take. It's how good is the road. It's not which direction does the road go. It's how good is the road. And I contend that you can tell a Robin Hood story that has Robin Hood as, like I said, the brother of the Sheriff of Nottingham. Or he was a poor beggar instead of the rich Robin of Locksley. Or that he was this or that he was that. You can do that. Change major significant. Get rid of Maid Marian altogether. Hell, you can say him and Little John had a romance. I mean, it doesn't matter. If you tell a great story and you make it compelling and the audience comes along for the ride, it doesn't matter what the expectations were. It'll work. But it all comes down to execution. Like I say that all the time. It really all comes down to execution. So I will respectfully disagree with you on that stuff. I don't think that what you're saying is necessarily true. I don't think it's completely devoid of merit either. I think there's something to it, but I think overall, big picture, I really think it comes down to execution. You execute, the audience will get on board with it, and the audience will be with you. Let's see. Michael West writes, just watch Venom rating 15 in the UK. Also, just like the Venom trailer, I could not understand Tom Hardy in the film. It's so funny because, you know, when Tom Hardy was in The Dark Knight Rises as Bane, there are some people telling me they had no problem understanding Tom Hardy in it, and I couldn't understand a bloody thing. At least not at first, right? Oh, yes, Mr. Wayne. Yes, I am the drunk butler. Yeah, Mr. Wayne. Like, I couldn't understand a bloody thing. But a lot of other people did. Role reversal, though, for Venom. I watched the Venom trailer. I was like, oh, I didn't even think about it. He was completely coherent. I had no problems at all understanding everything Tom Hardy was saying. I didn't even give it any thought. And yet there were a bunch of people I'm seeing online saying, I didn't understand what Tom Hardy was saying, which is just funny because it was completely the reverse thing for me with Dark Knight Rises. But I had no problem with it. But clearly, Michael, there are a bunch of people who do. So there you have it. Jay Pinkston writes, what's more likely, Ant-Man 3 or Iron Man 4? I'll say Iron Man 4. I think Iron Man 4 is more likely. I honestly don't think they're going to make an Ant-Man 3. I really don't. I think they have told their Ant-Man story. And I think Ant-Man's story really comes to fruition in Avengers 4. I think moving forward, Ant-Man and Wasp will be significant characters in the MCU, but I'm not expecting an Ant-Man 3. I hope I'm wrong, because I love the Ant-Man movies. One more than two, but I love the Ant-Man movies, and I really hope they make a number 3, but I really don't think they will, but I do think we're going to get an Iron Man 4 at some point. Let's see. Stubble McShave writes, expectations for Stan and Ollie, casting seems perfect. Well, it's hard to say that the casting seems perfect, but seems real good. I have high expectations. I'm a sucker for those types of movies. I love John C. Reilly doing more dramatic stuff. The trailer was fantastic, obviously. So for me, high expectations. High expectations going into that one. Let's see here. Oop, we had the big jump. Okay. Trojan of Narnia writes, for Narnia and for Aslan, I'm so pumped. You know, there are a lot of people out there that love these Narnia books, man. The Narnia books are classic. Written by C.S. Lewis. Classic stuff. I read a lot of C.S. Lewis. I mean, back in my theologian days, too. C.S. Lewis is actually one of my favorite theologians as well. But whether it's like Screw Tape Letters or things like that. But a lot of people passionately love it. It's a smaller group, like compared to like, you know, Hunger Games or Harry Potter, a much smaller group. But there is a passionate group of people out there that love these Narnia books. So you're going to find out that a lot of people are going to be quite excited about this. Ben Rayner writes, have you watched the Gifted premiere yet? Nope. Still haven't watched. I have been so freaking busy. It has been nuts. I was supposed to do a companion video last night, and I just simply didn't have time. I am behind. I'm falling behind on the companion videos. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's probably going to be some questions today that need to, I got to get my ass in gear and get picked up here, but it's been tough doing the show from here, then having to get in my car, drive to Hollywood, do all the stuff at the studio out there, trying to get things ready to launch the John Campea show from the new studio, and I'm there till whenever, and then last night I had to do the town hall meeting with the Patreon support. I've not had time to watch it yet. And you know how much I love Gifted, and I haven't had chances to just sit down and watch and they're now 2 episodes in. I still haven't watched the premiere yet. Still haven't watched the premiere. So I got to get on that, man. I got to get on that. Rude Shot writes, a 15R in the UK means no one under 15 whatsoever, John. Yeah, a lot of people told me that weeks ago. We talked last week that, Venom got in the UK a 15. Which is the same rating Deadpool got. And I said, look, I don't know the UK rating system. I'm assuming it means that if you're under 15, you have to be accompanied by an adult, just like in the US, you got to be accompanied by an adult. But then I had everybody tweeting me that same day telling me, hey, John, over here in the UK, 15 means you cannot go in if you're under 15. So it's actually more R than the R rating in America is. Because in America, you could be 13 years old and still go into an R-rated film if you have an adult with you. But apparently in the UK, if it's 15, if you're under 15, you can't get in. Doesn't matter who goes with you. So I thought that was interesting. Okay. Casinema Reviews writes, why did Teen Titans Go get to be in theaters, but Under the Red Hood, Justice League, Gods and Monsters, Flashpoint Paradox, and Gotham by Gaslight don't? Because nobody would have gone to see them. And most of those sucked. So at least a lot of them sucked. And a lot of them were made with the quality level of direct-to-home video. But they specifically made Teen Titans Go as a theatrical release. And it didn't do well. I mean, let me bring it up here. Hold a second. Teen Titans Go box office. Oddly enough, it got really good, solid critical reviews. It got really solid. To my surprise, I still haven't watched it. Yeah, but the thing basically tanked. It made worldwide. It made $50 million. Not $50 million opening weekend. Not $50 million domestic. Worldwide total $50 million. They spent more on that in marketing. They spent more on marketing than this movie made at the box office. So, yeah, I mean, that's kind of, but they specifically made this specifically for the theater. A lot of these movies, like Gaslight, the only one out of these things that, Under the Red Hood was great. I did like Under the Red Hood. Justice League, Gods and Monsters, I thought sucked. But anyway, a lot of those were made directly for home video, and you could tell they were made specifically for direct-to-home video. Teen Titans Go was specifically made to be a theatrical release, but even though it had really positive critical reviews, it still tanked. Nobody went to go see it. So that's probably why, more than anything else. No Handlerlin writes, does Venom failing mean Spidey will stay in the MCU? Well, we don't know if Venom's failed yet or not. Look, if Venom opens up to $55 million, $60 million, Sony's going to be really happy with that. It doesn't matter what the critical reviews are. So Venom has not failed. We'll have to wait and see how it does. Because if this movie opens up to $55, $60 million, hell, $70 million? If it opens up like that, it's a success. And they're going to keep on rolling. But yeah, I have said for a long time that if Venom fails financially, yeah, I believe Sony's going to put the gears in motion to take Spider-Man back out of the MCU. I really believe that. Because they're going to go, well, we thought we could try doing a comic book universe without Spider-Man, but we couldn't. So, yoink, come on back home, Spider-Man. Boom. And they're going to, because we've never made a Spider-Man movie that made any less than $700 million. Every single Spider-Man movie we've ever made has made more than $700 million. So, time to bring back Spider-Man. That's what's going to happen. If Venom can open to 50, 55, 60 plus, Spider-Man may be safe over there in the MCU. We're going to have to wait and see how it does, though. These critic reviews are not going to help it. Not going to help it. Dirk Diggler writes, congrats to you, John. Thank you so much, Dirk. I appreciate that, man. Adrian Fredick writes, can Infinity War win Oscar for score and script? I really doubt for script. It's just way overcrowded. It's very packed. I don't think for script at all. It's eligible to be nominated for score. It's possible. But every movie that comes out, it's possible it could get a nomination for score. But remember, there's a hell of a lot of movies that have a hell of a lot of great scores, too. So, possible. Not likely, but possible. Santez Henderson writes, holy crap, that Vice trailer is amazing. I know, right? Like, seriously. It's some seriously good shit. It's really good. And I was like floored by it. And the interaction between Sam Rockwell and Christian Bale as George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, I thought I could watch 2 hours. I'm telling you what, I could watch that movie. If you told me Vice was 2 hours of Sam Rockwell and Christian Bale sitting at that table just talking to each other for 2 hours, I'd still buy my ticket and go. Because I just thought it looked fantastic. So, yeah, I'm with you, man. Let's see here. Brian Rogers writes, in Ireland, can't watch Sisters Brothers anywhere, huh? Yeah, well, I mean, look, a lot of movies, it's not even open in wide release here, domestically. And, a lot of movies open in different markets at different times. So just because you can't watch it anywhere there yet doesn't mean you won't necessarily be able to at some point. So hang in there, man, hang in there. Joshua Stevens writes, a lot of people didn't like the movie The Captive. I personally thought it was pretty good and enjoyed a serious Ryan Reynolds. The Captive? I'm not familiar with The Captive. Hold on a second. Oh, the one he did with Scott Speedman. You know what? I didn't watch it. I didn't watch that one. I don't even think it got a theatrical release. I'm almost positive it didn't get a theatrical release. Hold on a second. Let me just double check here. I'm almost positive it did not get a theatrical release. Let's see here. A24. Nah, it got like a very, 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 very small limited release, made like $1 million at the box office. But although Kevin Durant is in it, and I love him, but yeah, no, I never watched that one, so I can't really comment on it. Marie Seifring writes, today Salon.com put out a piece citing an academic paper done by USC researcher Morton Bay. It is titled, Apparently Russia was helping cyberbully Star Wars Kelly Marie Tran. While not the only contributor to the bitter online debate about The Last Jedi, the researcher concludes that Russian government trolls and bots fanned the controversy. Sad. Well, this was actually originally reported in the Hollywood Reporter. There was a research study done by a USC faculty, a researcher there, who concluded that a certain I can't remember what the numbers were, a certain percentage of the anti-Last Jedi message, particularly the politically charged ones, were fake accounts and were based out of Russia, were Russian trolls. And that it was like 41% of that stuff was being fueled by Russian trolls in an organized effort to contribute. That's why it's such a politically charged thing. They had a politically motivated agenda to try to contribute to the political divide amongst America and Americans. And that was the whole idea of it. And did this whole big, long research paper. Two things to keep in mind here. There are people who are anti The Last Jedi who just don't care about facts. And they go, nah, that's bull. No, we don't believe it. We don't believe it. Sorry, the dude's got research. He's documented it. It is what it is. But at the same time, there are people on the other side of the debate going, see, everyone loves The Last Jedi. See, everyone loves it. Everyone loves it. No. Just because this research paper pointed out that there's a certain percentage of it that was faked, that does not discredit the big chunk of it that was not faked and comes from legitimate people who just legitimately did not like The Last Jedi. So I've been finding ever since that paper got published that everybody on both sides is just losing their minds. No, we don't believe it. It's fake. It's fake. It's fake. See, everyone loves Last Jedi. See, everyone. Neither is true. The dude has his facts. He has his study, but that does not in any way negate the fact that there is a big chunk of people out there that don't like The Last Jedi for their own legitimate reasons. So I think everybody on both sides just went hysterical when this study came out. I think everybody on both sides just went absolutely hysterical when the study came out, and neither of them should. You know, it's a study that one guy did that suggests some certain things, but doesn't suggest others. Everybody just needs to chill out. Everybody just needs to chill out. It's a thing that neither supports nor undermines anybody's position. All right? So everybody take a deep breath. It's a study that neither supports nor undermines anybody's position. It just adds some new information to the discussion. That's all it did. So everybody needs to take a breath. Anyway, but it was interesting. It's interesting that somebody would even think that that was something to study. But it's intriguing. So thanks for bringing that up, Marie. John Michael Lozada writes, may I suggest Red Dead 2 for your next game? A lot of people, look, I'm very big on Red Dead and used to play Red Dead Redemption all the time. That might be it. Might be it. We'll have to see. I really want to play Fortnite for my play-in chat. The problem is I suck so bad at Fortnite. I'm not all that good at World of Warcraft either, but I'm so bad at Fortnite. I just don't want the entire discussion to be about how bad I am, because I already know how bad I am. But we'll have to wait and see. Dirk Diggler writes, oh my God, my PTSD is returning with the Aquaman release date. Reminds me Justice League. I hope that Aquaman outperforms Justice League, because if it doesn't, then it could be that Warner Brothers has Jokers in the boardroom. No. Look, I'll tell you this right now, Dirk. Aquaman is not going to outperform Justice League, nor is that a realistic expectation, nor is that a fair expectation. Aquaman doesn't need to outperform Justice League to be considered a success. Not at all. I'm telling you what, if Aquaman makes $400+ million, it's profitable, and I consider that a success. Why? It's not reasonable to say, hey, a movie with Aquaman and Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman and Flash and Cyborg, blah, 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 should be outperformed by a movie with just Aquaman. It's happened, but it's not a realistic expectation. So I think it would be unfair to put that sort of burden on an Aquaman film. Guess what? If Aquaman makes $420 million, it's profitable. It's profitable. It makes money. That's a success. Especially opening in that Death Valley window, of that 8-day Death Valley window. That's a success. So don't go into it, Dirk, with the expectation that it needs to outperform Justice League. Aquaman doesn't need to make more than $650 million. I think it's unrealistic to say if this movie doesn't make more than $650 million, it's a failure. I disagree with that. I completely disagree with that. I think Aquaman can come out. Look, if Aquaman comes out and makes $300 million, okay, maybe that's a failure. But at $400 million, $425, $450, that's a success. Now you're in the black, and that works. So yeah, I mean, let's be fair to it. Let's not burden it with unrealistic expectations. Dirk Diggler says, just a nutty idea. There you go. Stephen Raleigh writes, where'd Stephen Raleigh write? What do you think of actors playing exaggerate versions of themselves? Oh, I think it can be funny if done the right way. We've seen a number of actors, like one of the best examples of that is in the Harold and Kumar films. And damn it, why am I forgetting his name? The actor from How I Met Your Mother. I can't believe I'm freezing on his name. Come on, load up. Neil Patrick Harris, there you go. One of the greatest examples of that was, of course, Neil Patrick Harris in the Harold and Kumar movies, right? But we've seen other actors play themselves, but really exaggerated versions of themselves. And I think it's funny. I think when it's used in the right context, for instance, once again, going back to Kingsman and the Golden Circle, not so great with Elton John. That was done terribly. Could have been funny, ended up being terrible. But yeah, we've seen, and I think it can be fun. If used, like almost anything in movies, if used the right way, it can be really fun. It can be really fun. So I kind of like it when they do it. I Do Monologues writes, new Doctor Who series starts on Sunday. All standalone episodes with contained stories and no baggage from prior seasons. Jump on anytime, John. Yeah, a lot of people have been telling me that I Do Monologues. That, like, I'm not really a Doctor Who guy, but one of the big things that's really being promoted is that, and I think a lot of new fans are intimidated about jumping on board with Doctor Who because it's such a long-running series, and they fear they're going to be lost. One of the things with this new season that a lot of people keep telling me is that this new season is being done in such a way that you can just jump on board even if you don't know anything. You don't have to know anything about the history of this series or franchise, whatever, to jump on board and enjoy. And I'm thinking I just might. I think I'm going to give this thing a shot. I mean, I still haven't gotten around to watching the season premiere, of Gifted, but I think I'm going to give this one a shot when I have a chance. So thanks for the recommendation, I Do Monologues. Okay, RC writes, thoughts about Hollywood Reporter article about Russian trolls and targeting The Last Jedi? Well, we already just kind of went over that, RC. Nathan DC Marvel writes, just saw Venom, man. That was a one rush script. Well, not really. They took their time. They were working on that script for like 8 months. That was a script that was worked on for like 8 months. Keep in mind, Drew Goddard and Joss Whedon wrote the script for Cabin in the Woods in a weekend. In a weekend. Not that every script can be written in a weekend, not at all, but they wrote that script for like 8 months. So it was not a rush script. It may have come across as rushed, but it really wasn't a rush script. Madagascar writes, last two questions of the day, guys. Disney and Fox both own 30% of Hulu. When merger is finalized, Disney will own 60%, the majority. What's next for Hulu when Disney streaming comes out? Well, Bob Iger suggested one time. He didn't say this is what we're doing. He just suggested, he goes, I don't know. Maybe Hulu becomes the home for the more mature stuff. And the Disney streaming service for the more open to everybody stuff. You know, Avengers, Civil War, Star Wars, things like that can be on streaming, on the Disney streaming channel, and maybe some more edgier stuff and darker stuff and more adult stuff can go on Hulu. I mean, he didn't say that's what they were going to do, but that's just an option open to them. What they have to be careful about is that the other partners don't want to drop out of Hulu with Disney having a big controlling share. If Disney, my fear about the Hulu situation is that the other partners involved might go, oh, now there's one group that has all the power? Because if you own 60%, you have all the power. One group has all the power? Well, then we're out. I would actually honestly love to see Disney sell 30%. I'd love to see them sell off Fox's to another body. But I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how that works out. Justin Keysoon writes, spoke to Alan Parker. What's your favorite movie of his? I honestly, off the top of my head, I don't even know who Alan Parker is. Michael Streak writes, I don't believe in curses, but video game movies. Oh, I know. Well, hey, look, the last one, the Tomb Raider one was actually not bad. The Tomb Raider one with Alicia Vikander, not bad. Not great, but not bad. And that's, I think, the best I've ever said about any comic book movie or any video game movie adaptation of all time. Because even Mortal Kombat, as much as I love Mortal Kombat, is a total piece of trash. But I love it. But it's a trash movie, but I love it, but it's trash. So, I don't know. Maybe we'll see things go in the right direction. But, man, I remember for a couple of years, we were going, the two films that are going to open up a new golden age for video game movies, Warcraft and Assassin's Creed. These two movies are going to hit big, and it's going to open up a new golden age for video game movies. Wah, wah. I like Warcraft, personally. I like Warcraft. But I can understand why a lot of people don't. And a lot of people don't. Assassin's Creed was total ass. Just a, shoving a dull fork into your eyeball kind of awful. Just special singing songs and tales about its utter stupidity awful was Assassin's Creed. But hey, who knows? Maybe the sun will shine on video game movies at some point. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, listen, guys, it's Wednesday, which normally means that the Weekly Hero would be on this afternoon, but there is no Weekly Hero today. Robert Meyer Burnett and I are really busy right now getting a new set built and a new thing put together, trying to get ready to start shooting the Weekly Hero in the new studio. So no Weekly Hero tonight, but the Weekly Hero will be back again next week shooting from our new studio. So keep your eyes open for that. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until the next video, bye-bye.